help if you guys, kind of don't flood it at the moment with a whole spate of questions. Just, you feel free to interrupt. I'm not saying that, but just contain a little bit and ask them, when we are well into the subject matter. Now, another thing, let me just share the screen. Today, we also have for a fiver, the Lodge of London is doing, there's a talk on secondary progressions, and the second half, I will get back. Sorry. Hello. Hello. Can everybody hear?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, so let's continue. And so last time we left it at the ninth house, right? We all know that the ninth house is literally where we have to have complete faith in ourselves, and in everything we do. And we saw Srila Prabhupada's chart, and that was sort of quite illuminating, because what 69-year-old man, uh, just on the instructions of his guru, goes to a completely foreign land with no money, and just a mission in his heart, and that's all. So that's pretty remarkable. So anyway, let's oops, where am I? Let me just start it from the current slide. Okay. So now, there was also another thing I would like to share with everyone regarding the various texts as we go along. I'm going to put a lot of material, for each of the houses I have put. And at a later time, once we are done in a couple of sessions, we will then tackle with what it means for each of the planets, like sun in the first house, sun in the second house, moon in the second house, and so on and so forth. And the conjunctions, two planet conjunctions, three planet conjunctions, because all of these have a very definite meaning. It's not random, you know. And so but there are lots of, Parashara has dealt with it as well, which is our main granddaddy. He's like the Bible of Jyotish. But there is also other very powerful texts, which is Saravali and Mansagri. Now I'm going to just take a few things. I like I said, there is like a whole chapter in Saravali devoted to the effects of the ninth house. So please, we won't go too much into it, but I wanted to show you that how, while I was researching, there's like immense material. And I would really encourage all of you to make like a nice list, or a nice, like a keep a notebook where you add a lot of things, research, find what happens with the various ninth lords goes where. And Saravali has dealt very quite a lot with Jupiter in the ninth, aspected by Mars. Now, again, like I said, I'm going to deal with some of this stuff again once we touch upon significations of various planets in various houses. Okay, so don't get bogged down by, oh my God, it's a lot. It's not really. Once you start to go through, it'll start to flow. The rhythm will come. So don't worry about it. So here I've made a whole list. I've added it in the presentation. Um, I would encourage you to just go through it, if you don't have the text. But I'm not going to go into it in much detail, because we are going to then take up forever. So anyway, we now come to the Rajya Pada. Now, Rajya Pada is nothing but the 10th house. It's the throne. Now, if you see these images in India, the old kings and everything, they had this whole obsession with the throne. Now, of course, in modern scenario, we call our toilet the throne. But in the olden days, the throne was jeweled, and there were these all these, and the famous throne, which is called the peacock throne, made from sapphires and gold plating and silver plating, copper materials, very comfortable, came from the famous King Shah Jahan. Everybody has heard of Shah Jahan. He built the Taj Mahal in the honor of his wife Mumtaz, who passed away. And he spent the entire days his imprisoned, just overlooking the river and overlooking the Taj, and that's how he passed away. So basically, he was also famous not just for Taj Mahal, he was also famous for the famous peacock throne. Now this gives us a lot of clues as to why the throne is of such immense importance. All royalty, even the Indian Kohinoor was sort of associated with the throne, until it went away, and it went through Iran. There's like a whole history of where it all went. Iran, and then it came back to India and landed up with the East India Company, and then eventually it came to Queen Victoria, the British Empire, and it still is in the British Museum. I think it's in the Tower of London. I did see it. But feel free someday to for people who are in Europe, to have a look around once we are past the lockdown. But it's all very interesting that the throne was a very vital and important part. And this is where we come to the 10th house, because the 10th house is our crowning glory. It is our karma, it's our fundamental, where we are born to do. So, in a way, it's a very karmic house. And that is the reason why it's called Karma Bhava. Karma literally means action. So, it is a full action packed house. And of course, it is action. It's Capricorn. By the Naisargika, or the natural zodiac, it is the sign of Capricorn, which is nothing but a cardinal sign. It's a movable sign. It's all action orientated. All cardinal signs are action orientated. So Parashara has a lot to say about the 10th house. He talks about Rajyam, that is, Rajya is kingdom. Remember, I said it's the throne, it's the kingdom, has associations with the 10th house. Now, whenever we look at the 10th house, whenever we want to see, let's say, a horror, or we want to talk about what is going to happen to the president of a country or the prime minister, we always look and read the chart from the 10th house. This is a very important Vedic principle which you will all have to learn, because we will remember, we don't just see the chart from the lagna. From the lagna, of course, because it is a Satyapita, it's our eternal truth. It's our truth that we are born with, but we just don't become our ascendant. It's very hard to achieve, to become our ascendant, because it is inherently, there are a lot of hurdles. We have to go through all the houses to come to our truth. And the truth, the ultimate karma, and that is why we see the 10th house from various angles and examine it from various ascendants, which we will learn in the next few sessions. It's going to be very exciting and very important, because um, the Maya of the Maya of the lagna, or the ascendant. Maya means our mirage. It's not real. It's an impression. So similarly, each of these houses have an impression. So the 10th house from the Maya, which is nothing but the Arud Lagna, which we will learn about, is very, very important to examine. And so similarly, we always examine the 10th house from the moon. Now, before I delve into what are the importances, let's first tackle with what really it means. Why is it the throne? Because it is the final and the cardinal, the highest house. It's the Akash Lagna. When we talk of Akash, we mean the highest. It's like the sky, it's there's nothing more vital, more important than this. So in a way, it's one of the highest houses, especially a cardinal or a kendra house. And it has to do with the mode of conduct, the course of action, behavior, moral conduct. What begins in all these houses, the first four houses, what's going on in our mind, what's going on the 12th house, what's going on in our subconscious, what's going on in the second, how our morals are formed, what is in our heart, that's our fourth house, what is in our mind, what are we thinking, how are our thoughts in the third house, our desires, what we feel attracted to, what we really want, deeply desire. It's like those temptations, all that is third house. And so all that, it's a summation, all of that will turn up in the 10th house. So if you have malefics here, well, it will show at some point in your life, it will show. So that's why this 10th house is a very sensitive and a very powerful house, because it is our final destination in a way, because this is what we are born here to do. No matter what, not everybody has to have great karmas, okay? But within the sphere of our potential, we have to reach the 10th house, and that is why this is very important house. It also shows what our devotions or addictions to occupation, profession, maintenance, what maintains or what gives us substance, what gives us livelihood, what is our mood in going on in the mind. It has a bearing, whatever is in the fourth house in our heart chakra, rith chakra, and whatever is in our head in our third house will show up, like I said, in the 10th house. Mana, this is where the mind is. Where is our mind focused in? Where is our attention in? um, Source of nourishment. Can everybody switch off their mics, please? It will help. This is too disturbing, please. Um, then it's pravasa. Pravasa is dwelling abroad, foreign residences, to go abroad. That is also one of the great significations of the 10th house. Then we come to Rin. Parashara talks about Rin, but please remember, when we talk of Rin or karmic debts, this is more like karma debts, in my view. This is I made up. This is not what Parashara is saying, but I am trying to differentiate and tell you guys what is the difference between the debts, the karmic debts in Rin in the 8th house, and what is the difference between the 10th house. They are distinctly different. The debts in the 10th house is what we are born to do in terms of action, okay? And what we are meant to do in the 8th house is because of our own fundamental flaws, our where we did our little boo boo, where we goofed up, in some lifetime. And it will get us to turn and say, this is your karmic debt, your remit that you have to pay this lifetime. That will show up in the 8th house. But the 10th house has it's like the sky is the potential, so you have to feel the inspiration, but you also equally have to have the focus. You also have to be able to, after all, it is the house of Capricorn. It is about creating structure. It is an earth house, so so you have to then create it through diligence, through skill, all of is in the normal sign Capricorn. So that's why the 10th house is of utmost importance, and also why it is to do with Rin deaths. And Vyomasthana, which is the Akash Lagna, which is also to do with Bhima and Rudra. Remember, it is the third from the 8th house, so whatever our earnings, whatever we want to desire, our earnings through will turn up here as well. Whatever we research, whatever our deep hidden things, which we find ourselves in the 8th house, is the 10th house has a huge bearing on it, or rather it will have a say in it. And that is the reason why the 10th house is a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the karakas. Can you guys switch off the, please? Who's got this open? Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Uh okay. Anyway, so the karakas of this house, there are four karakas of this house. Okay, one is Mercury. Now, Mercury will give you the skill, the vritti, the course of action. That is Mercury's realm, the business side, the occupation, the profession. Saturn will give you the hard work, the maintenance, subsistence, the livelihood. That is the domain of Saturn. So he also becomes a karaka of the 10th house. But first and foremost, it is Mercury's karaka. Then we come to Sun. Sun is the third most important karaka for this 10th house. Sun has to do with the bosses, our fame. If we have malefics there, then hey, God help you. If you've got Saturn there, or Rahu there will be some kind of defamation, or you may have to undergo some kind of losses. It's part of the territory. Okay, so that is really important to remember. And the other thing about the 10th house is there are three Agni Tattva planets that get great directional strength in the 10th house. Huge. One is Sun. Sun in the 10th. Wow. You have been blessed by Indra. You know, all you have to do is say Hom Indrai Namaha, and that's it. Every time you want to do an important task, Hom Indrai Namaha, and you have the blessings of Indra. You have the blessings of the Agni Dev. You know, the eastern direction is your deep down, it's your direction. So the 10th house sun does very, very well. We will do in depth the directional strengths where each of the planets get great strength in where. So this, but I'm just mentioning it because it is important for the 10th house. And the Mars and Ketu also get great directional strength in the 10th house. Superb. Remember, all the Agni Tattva planets have huge fortune when they go in the 10th house in the natal chart. And the sun will give you a lot of fame. It will give you in a very positive manner. But of course, if it is with sun Saturn conjunction, then you'll have the usual problems and things like that. Then the fourth karaka is Jupiter, which is prosperity and growth. So the sun, the more work you put in, you have to deal with the bosses, you have to negotiate contracts and contacts and associations and all that. So all of that will fall under the domain of the 10th house. So the sun in the 10th is really a huge blessing. You'll always be busy. You'll be busy either climbing some kind of corporate ladder or climbing something or the other. Sun in the 10th is absolutely fantastic. So these are the very fundamental and basic significations of the 10th house. So the 10th house, bear in mind, it is a karma bhava that you cannot take. It's like where your highest achievement, what you are born to do, will turn up here. And that is the reason, once, and we will see the chart when we come to one of the charts, why it is also the 10th lord is also considered for longevity. Okay, along with the 8th lord and the lagna lord, ascendant lord, these are the key lords for longevity calculations. And you would say, but why 10th? Because a simple reason. Number one, Saturn is also the karaka. The natural zodiac Capricorn is Saturn rules Capricorn. And so Saturn is the Ayush karaka. That is, it will it's the significator of longevity. So that is why, another reason why the 10th house becomes very important for longevity calculations. The other thing is, um, the 10th house is also, in terms of the karaka, the karaka of the 10th house is also, like I said, Mercury, Sun. So all of these will have a role to play. But when we do charts, when we say, hey, I've got nothing in, let's say, if you want to evaluate the how good a person's 10th house is, then we see also the karaka. If it is a lot of affliction in the 10th house, then we see, hey, let's understand what is the karaka, where is Mercury in the chart. If Mercury is in lagna, is in a beneficial position, then the troubles that has is afflicted on the 10th house, if you have afflicted planets in the 10th house, then it won't be so bad. So you see, Karaka is the hand of God. It is everything. And for the 10th house, the Karaka is in that order. Mercury is the most important. So for everything, you will look at Mercury. So it's not, like I said, if supposing you have an exalted sun in the 10th house, wow, you definitely have a blessing of Indra for sure. Okay, Cancer Lagna people, if you have sun in the 10th, exalted sun in the 10th, great, fabulous. But then you will also want to see what is happening to Mercury. If the Mercury is debilitated, in Pisces or something, then ouch, you may have to work harder. And so all of these things count quite a lot. So that's really important for you guys to understand. And karma bhava is why, another point I wanted to make, why is this the house of longevity, sorry, the Lord is connected with longevity calculations, is because karma bhava means what we are born to do, action in every sphere of our life, which will show up here, right? What is our ultimate crowning action? What is our throne? Are we fit enough to sit on the throne that is created, or that is our potential? And so that is to do with our karma. And once our karma is over, tata, goodbye, exit the planet Earth, okay? That is why we consider the 10th house as karma. So once the karma is over, finished, your job done, goodbye, that's it. So that is why it is important to focus on the 10th, because once you're done with the Vedic view is, once you're done with a lot of your karmas, you have, kind of uh, done the action, done the skills, learned through scholarship, through studiousness, through hard work, then, forget about the 11th house, forget about the fruits and enjoyment and all that. You've done a job, you've done what you're born here to do. And that's why it's the karma bhava. Yeah. So remember, don't treat this house lightly. This is not a light house. This is one of the most important houses, because ultimately your longevity will depend on what karma you do in this house and associated with this house. Okay. Now, the effects of the 10th house. Now, again, like I said, there are 3 pages of this. I do not want to go so much in depth in this, but this is straight from Parashara, and some of it is really fantastic, but some of it you will need examples. You will have to do the work. I can't keep finding many examples, because I'm kind of like, oh my god, how many examples do I have to find for each dictum? Because bear in mind, Parashara literally is the god when it comes to figuring out. So don't think like, maybe he got it wrong. No, he didn't get it wrong, he got it right. It's our, we haven't yet reached our potential of learning to be able to find examples that, that resonate with his principles. So don't, and the other thing I also would say, like for example here, should the 10th and 11th house be both occupied by malefics, The native will indulge only in bad deeds and will defile his own men. Now, again, this sounds really dire, okay? I get it. It's kind of very depressing, especially let's say if you have, Mars in the 10th, you have Saturn in the ninth, then you'll be like, oh my God, this is horrible. But again, like I said, the Karaka is the hand of God. You have a choice. Look to the Karaka. And if the Karaka is also badly placed, then hey, don't despair, because there is always a way out. There is always an upay. You have to, the Karaka, if you worship the Karaka, then the deity, the Devata or the Pratyadi Devata associated with the particular planet or the Karaka, then there is a very good chance that this will not happen. But if you're unconscious and if you're going through life thinking, oh, yeah, fine, whatever, I don't need to really know all this dire stuff, then, well, it's at your risk. But what I'm trying to say is that don't take it lightly, but also don't say this is doom and gloom, because it's not. There is always a way out. Okay. So, and there's another thing. If the Lord of the 10th house is relegated to the 8th house, along with Rahu, the native will hate others, be a great fool, and will do bad deeds. Now, this is really, um, please, like I said, please be careful with this, because this is highly sensitive. What I would strongly encourage you guys, and this is one of your homework you've got to do. If you feel that something is really um, troubling you, and this particular dictum of Parashara from the chapter 21st is sort of troubling and kind of you're triggered by it, I will give you a solution. Go look for examples in the charts and see how it has manifested. Look for these, do a little bit of work, and maybe you will feel that there are other dictums which will take a higher precedence, and these will be slightly underplayed. Okay, so don't jump to conclusions, please. We are just beginning our journey. Jyotish is not just one chapter, one dictum from Parashara. It is a summation of his entire, magnum opus. So unless we have gone through the whole text, we will not really be in a position to make this kind of a judgment. Okay, so please, that's my plea to everybody. Now, any questions so far? No? Okay.
Hi, may I ask a question?
Yes, go on.
It's like you said, if the malefics have occupied the 10th house, there is certain thing, and if benefics have occupied there is certain other things. What if the house is empty?
Yes.
Does it mean that it has lesser strength? For example, in my chart, it is Aries in 10th house,
Uh,
and the Lord of Aries is Atma Karaka. So he's probably Mars is strong, that means. But then the house itself is empty.
yeah, that's fine. We won't take right now. Like I said, please join the Telegram group. Put up your personal charts by all means as
Ah,
a way of study, but let's not do personal charts yet. But yes, answering your question by all means, not a problem. We will have to look at where the Mars placement is in the chart, where is Mercury, because remember what I just said, Mercury is the Karaka of the 10th house. We will also want to know where Saturn is. That is also one of the
mhm,
Karakas of the 10th house. Okay, so one
yeah.
thing doesn't make up a story, and the other thing is, if you have the Atmakaraka and it rules the 10th house, that's very positive. So that's kind of very positive, but no, it doesn't mean that it is of lesser importance or not, because we always look at where the 10th lord is in the chart, and in fact, Since we've already done the ninth house, I wanted to also tell everyone that, there is a particular, it's called one of the highest yogas. Remember, the Kendras is the Vishnu sthana. Okay, remember, we've done that. And the Trikona Bhava, that is 1, 5, and 9, are the Lakshmi sthana. Now, any conjunction or an aspect of the Kendra with a Trikona, that is with Vishnu and Lakshmi, it's called the Vishnu Lakshmi Yoga, which is one of the highest. And if you have the ninth house and the 10th house, is the Karma Dharmadipati Yoga. Okay. And that's very, very powerful yoga. People who have this, okay, now there is a wide spectrum about, oh my God, what if it's in the fifth house? Oh my God, what if it is in the 12th house? What if it is in the second house? What if it is in the Lagna? We will come to all of that when we do the yogas, as well as when we do, lords of every house. But this Karma Dharmadipati Yoga of the ninth lord with the 10th together in the ninth or the 10th or the fifth or in any Trikona Bhava is one of the purest forms of the Lakshmi Vishnu yoga. And what that means is you have the great blessings. This lifetime, you have to do something very remarkable and leave a legacy behind for which will benefit your community and the world at large. You cannot exit the planet before you fulfill that. That's a very important mission for people, okay, for the people who have this. So don't, sometimes we get so carried away, oh my God, this yoga is great, but we are always looking for personal things. You have to slightly expand it. And when we come to the 10th house, this is not just for us, how I look good, I'm the CEO of this company and I'm the president of, this corporation. This is going beyond that. Fine, after that, what, at the age of 65 you may still have a hip replacement. We don't know, it doesn't matter, what, whether you are CEO of whatever, great, fantastic, but what have you done for the communities at large? How have you reached your full potential? So these are the things that the 10th house and the 11th house tries to answer. Okay, so that's why it's a very, strong karma, very spiritually sustainable, which will benefit the planet, is what the 10th house really is about. Okay, so yeah, by all means try to put the questions in the Telegram group if it's personal charts. Now
Thank you.
we see the should the 10th lord be in 11th, while the 11th lord is in the first, Venus is in the 10th, native will be endowed with precious stones. Now, like I said, please find examples. That's your little pick any of these and then find something like an example chart. And I would love to hear on this. Now, one will indulge in bad acts if 10th lord is in 8th house, while 8th lord is in the 10th house with a malefic. Okay, this 8th house, remember I said 8th house is a trick bhava. Okay, it's it is the lord of the 8th is never auspicious. So so if it turns up in the 10th house, there is, it's like the rudra has turned up at your at your workplace. Hey, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this rudra? So this is very difficult placement. It's not an easy one, but it's not impossible. But awareness is everything. Now, um here, this is also another beautiful yoga. When the 10th lord is in the Lagna with the Lagna lord, or as moon is in an angle or a trine, the native will be interested in good deeds. I mean, this is obvious, right? And this is when we come to yogas, there's a very powerful yogas. If the 10th lord is in the Lagna, or the 10th Lord is in the second house, you have the blessings of Durga, you have the blessings of Shakti, you have the blessings of your mother's lineage. Even though you may can't stand your mother, you may find her really annoying, whatever, but you have huge blessings if the 10th Lord is in the second. So anyway, so these are some of the things. Again, combinations for fame. One will be endowed with fame if moon is in the 10th, while 10th Lord is in a trine with from 10th house, and Lagna Lord is in an Lagna's angle. We will come to all this with an example. Now, again, I have some more things regarding Saravali. I would encourage you to get this text. If you can find a PDF, please do so. Saravali is a fantastic text. It's one of the right. If you recall, in the beginning, I had given this text as a support key textbook, along with the Parashara, Brihat Parashara, Hora Shastra. So Saravali, Brihat Nakshatra, Brihat Phaladipika, and Brihat Jataka, and Parashara. These four texts are like absolutely fundamental, and Mansagri. So 5 of them. Anyway, going back to so please have a look at all of these. I can send it to you. This is all very exciting. Now, one thing you have to bear in mind, we will come back to the 10th house, because we haven't done whether the 10th Lord, like we have not done the classification of, like, Scorpio, for example. Okay, Scorpio is a Kita Rashi. Kita is like a centipede, like it's got 4 legs, um, uh, and similarly, like Leo is a Aranya. That is, it's got like a whole animal is depicted by Leo, the lion. So if you have the 10 on the 10th house, if you have Leo rises in the 10th house, which really means that your Scorpio Lagna. Okay. So only then you can have Leo in the 10th house. Then that's fantastic, because if you are a whole animal sign in the 10th house, that's superb. You can really work. Like, you have the power. Think of the lion. Man, he can really work. He can really go for it. Yes, of course, when he's not interested, nothing can budge him. But really, lion can, really work very well, and with such great finesse and skill, you know. So that is how you analyze. But we will come to that. We haven't done the classification of signs. We will come to it at a later point. Okay, let's do some charts. One of my favorites, Abraham Lincoln. He needs, like I say, no introduction whatsoever. Now, at this point, I would like everyone to join in analyzing his chart. So please feel free to unmute yourselves. Okay. So what's his Lagna, and where is his Lagna Lord?
Aquarius.
Sorry?
Aquarius.
Yeah. And where is his?
Lagna Lord is in Scorpio.
Yes, there are 2 Lagna Lords, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ketu,
Rahu is in
Mani.
Libra.
Yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it? So his 10th Lord is in the 9th. Now that is remember what I said, any association with the 9th house and the 10th house is one of the highest yogas. You have to leave something good behind, like a legacy which will benefit humanity. Now, I think we all agree, never mind what his political principles were, but we do agree that what he left behind was kind of beneficial for humanity, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, where is his 9th Lord?
So
Second
Venus
house.
is in the 2nd house.
Yeah. And it's exalted with Jupiter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jupiter in his own house. So
absolutely.
strong.
Very strong. And also bear in mind that look at both the Lagna lords are very well placed. One Lagna lord, remember Aquarius has got two Lagna lords. One is Rahu and the other one is Saturn. So they both are very well placed. Also remember, this is a key dictum. When you have Lagna lord in the 10th house, that is one of the, again, one of the highest siddhis. That means this lifetime you are meant to acquire a siddhi. When we say siddhi, it means like a great expertise or knowledge or a concrete base that on which you can sort of shine and kind of blossom under that skill or a body of knowledge. It's a kind of, that's a siddhi, it's a power. Okay, so and so he definitely had a very strong Saturn is to do in Vedic. If you think, if you analyze very closely, then Saturn is all about people. It's all about democracy. It's all about the, it's all about the underdog. It's all about the masses.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn, of course, then, he abolished slavery. He was instrumental in that. And that is
Mm-hmm.
obvious. It's the Saturn, very, very strong.
But also, he's got Venus, Jupiter in the second, so that enhances the Jupiter. Because as a politician, you need to talk. So he's got strong benefics in the second with Venus.
Yeah,
As a politician, you have to give speeches. He was a
of
good
course.
orator.
Totally. Yeah, you're right, James. Absolutely. And then an exalted Venus and Jupiter in the second house. But also his speech, he had the blessings of the Dikpal Devta because Mercury is in,
First
Digbal. That is,
house.
it's in its strength in the first house with the sun. So we will, again, like I said, we will come to this because this is a little bit, we need a few sessions on which planet does brilliantly. Mercury and Jupiter do fantastic in the first house in Lagna. Okay, they get great strength. So and Mercury is a Republican. And Saturn is a Democratic. It's kind of ironic, but and yet he fought for the people. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. Anyway, let's move to this. Another person with Lagna Lord in the 10th. And can you see? Can somebody, is everybody familiar with Jiddu Krishnamurti?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now again,
Yep.
oh gosh, we can't see it. Now it's interesting that he then later migrated to America, but he came from a small town with his brother. His mother passed away very early, and he was adopted by Annie Besant, who was instrumental in co-founding the Theosophical Society of England. She was also, I think, in Adyar, in India. She was a head there, and so basically she had very close associations also with Alan Leo and Madame Blavatsky, who's the founder of the Lodge of London. So basically, when she came to England, Annie Besant, after living in India for a long time, she brought along these two kids, much against the wishes of the father. These two kids, that is Jiddu Krishnamurti and the brother. But the brother died, and then just before that, the father passed away too, and he could not recover from both his especially his father passing away and then immediately his brother passing away. And he was absolutely devastated. And I don't think he recovered in life. And that is depicted often when we have malefics in the 10th house or the 4th house, which he has. It really is troubling for the father. Okay, a father's health suffers or father will suffer the minute you're born. it's a problem. And he also had the sun opposition Saturn. So the minute you are born, your father goes into a little bit of a downward spiral. So now, again, like I said, please, you have to be a very sensitive. If you have it, you have to try getting more and more sort of what it means and all that. We will do the aspects and all that, but it's a very difficult placement, sun Saturn together or in opposition. And especially when Saturn is retrograde, which it always will be if it is opposite the sun. um, so but the saving grace is that the Lagna Lord is exalted. But of course, retrograde means it's going to be even more malefic. So he did have a very difficult and a tumultuous life. It wasn't easy at all, at all. So you see, even though, but he did have the Siddhi yoga, he does have the Siddhi yoga. Can anybody else comment on anything? Anything they see?
The connection between the 10th Lord, 10th house and the Lagna?
Yes. Absolutely. Beautiful. Yeah. 10th Lord is what? It's in trines, though. Is that what you're saying? 10th Lord is Saturn. Sorry, Venus.
Lagna Lord is Saturn.
Yeah. And how is it connected with the...
It is placed in the 10th house. So connection of the Kendra houses.
But the 10th Lord is Venus, right? Venus has no aspect to Saturn.
Okay.
It is only in a trine, but that's very nice, but it's not really a significant aspect to it. The main thing is that even in the previous chart, guys, now here's where the Karaka comes into picture. When we look at Abraham Lincoln, you would think like, wow, Saturn in the 10th, Lagna Lord in the 10th, fabulous. But it's in Scorpio, okay, fine. Very powerful in Scorpio. But the Karaka is so strong. The Karaka, who's the Karaka of the 10th house?
Also
Saturn.
Saturn.
Mercury, Sun.
He's one of them.
Yes, absolutely. So Saturn is one of them. Then the other Karaka, the first Karaka is
It's
Mercury.
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 Exactly.
Yeah.
And Mercury, remember what I said?
He's in the
Mercury,
Lagna.
In the first house.
absolutely.
And he's very
Mercury,
strong in the Lagna.
exactly. Thank you.
Mm.
Mercury in Lagna is in Digbal. It's absolutely very strong. So you see you have to see the relationship between what is happening. Don't get carried away. Wow, he's got Siddhi yoga. Fantastic. Lagna Lord in the 10th. Superb. But wait, see where the Mercury placement is. Here, again, Jiddu Krishnamurti, very positive. Mercury is in Venus's sign. And can anybody spot the Parivartana too?
Oh, yep.
Yes. So what is
Yep.
the Parivartana between Venus and Mercury?
And
See?
Mercury, yep. Mm-mm.
So at some point, his life will completely change, totally change. And that's when he'll begin to achieve. And so when the minute he got adopted by Annie Besant, his brother, his life completely changed. He came to England. He was thinking of going to Oxford, where he was denied entry. He had all the sort of backers and investors because Annie Besant was quite a powerful figure at the time in the UK. Anyway, let's continue. We know this guy. Do we know him?
Yes, yeah.
Yes?
Yes, Jim Morrison of the Doors.
Jim Morrison, yeah.
Yes. Now, Jim Morrison, one of my favorite lyricists, absolutely fantastic. Now you can see where's the 10th Lord.
In its own house.
Good. And can anybody tell me where his Lagna Lord is?
In the 6th house.
6th house.
Yeah, but there is a lot of intelligence. Remember when we did the 6th house, what did I say? There is a
Yes,
Dhimanta
Lagna
Yoga.
Lord.
Yeah, very intelligent, very brilliant, right? And 10th Lord in 10th is very powerful yoga, very, very powerful, right? And it's Venus, it's skill level,
Mm.
right? And he was like the dark scorpion. He's got he had this whole occult theme going, this whole mystical theme going. Because Venus is in its own sign, it won't give the results of its own sign. What results will it give of?
Saturn.
Sorry?
Saturn.
No, Venus's exaltation is in
In
Oh.
Pisces.
Pisces. So Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, forgot. Yeah, yes, true. Give
Yeah.
a sign of
Yeah.
Jupiter. And Jupiter is in the 8th. Yes.
Yes, so that was a problem. He didn't live much long, you see, because remember I said Jupiter in the 8th house, benefics in the 8th house is very problematic, you know. But he was a great dancer. Ketu is a great dancer. Ketu in Lagna is a superb dancer. And he was like a leopard, like he himself was called like the leopard or lizard king or something, you know. And so you see all his entire music and the way his being is completely, you can analyze the chart and he was totally that, right? He had this mystical, occult, secretive personality, and that lends itself very well to his music too. Very intriguing, very secretive. Anyway, let's move forward.
So, can I ask a question quickly?
Yes.
Why is Mercury connected with the 10th house? Did you say it was skill or finesse? Why is Mercury Karaka of the 10th?
Yes, because of the skill to sustain oneself, to bring in. Remember, we went through that, right? Remember, I said that. Let's go back to the slides. Remember what I said about the 10th house. Professions and career is to do with Mercury.
Communication, yeah.
Well, of course. And professions and career, you know, and skill level, you know.
Dexterity, yeah.
Absolutely, you know.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Any kind of dexterity, yeah. Anyway, let's move forward to the 11th house. We are almost there, guys. You know, now 11th house is the Labha Bhava. Labha in Sanskrit literally means gains, but that is not the only bhava. That is not the only name that it's called by. It is also called by various names, and the names are Ayabhava or Harabhava, which is ruled by Rahu, the natural zodiac, you know, the natural, the natural ruler of this is Saturn and Rahu, but predominantly Rahu. So if we see it in the natural sequence, this is the house of Aquarius. Now, you may well say that, hey, the 11th house is beautiful, it's the house of Jupiter. In terms of the Karaka is Jupiter. Why? So why is it so bad? Because it's all about gains and fulfillment of wishes and desires and dreams, because it mirrors the 5th house. You know, children, often parents have children, you know, who have children will always put their deep, inherent, unfulfilled hopes and wishes onto their children. It's always like that. It's natural. Generations have done it. Nothing will ever change because it's part of the human psyche that we tend to, whatever our unfulfilled desires, we say, oh, maybe our children will fulfill them, not a problem. So we live sometimes through our children, and that's mirrored by the 11th house, you see. That's why another reason why it is part of the in terms of like hopes and associated with fulfillment of wishes and hopes and dreams and things like that. And it is also the third from the ninth. Okay, so that means it is also the 11th house also signifies the guru upadesha. Upadesha means the the advice of the guru. What the guru is saying is sacrosanct. And that is why. Hi, guys, can you please switch it off? Okay. Now, let's see what Parashara has to say about the 11th house. The 11th house of the Bhava Chakra shows Nana, that is various Vastu, worthy objects, goods, wealth, property. Okay. Putra Jaya, spouse of son, as 11th house, as is 7th from the 5th. Okay. That's obvious, right? We get that. Putra Jaya is spouse of the son or children. Okay. That means it's like, because the 5th house is children for both the sexes. And the opposite to that is the 7th house. So the 11th house is the 7th from the 5th. So that is, of course, spouse of the children. Then Aya, that is income, gain, vriddhi, interest accrued, increase, prosperity, pashu, animals. That also comes from the 11th house. Then it is the bhavasthana, place where one is situated, place where one comes into existence, the birth, production, original worldly existence, the samsara, well-being, prosperity, welfare, excellence, obtaining acquisition. So you see, but even Parashara is alluding to all these things about incomes coming in. Now, there is another very strong, this is a little like a little snippet I'm going to share from the Vedic tradition I come from, and this is very important. 11th house is also for the astrologer, especially the astrologer. If you have any association with the 11th house, or the Lord of the 11th is your Atmakaraka or the king of your chart, or your Lagna Lord is in the 11th, then you will be able to earn, or as well as you have the capacity to do scholarly studies in Jyotish, in astrology, in any kind of Chinese astrology, or Hellenistic, or anything, occult, palmistry, all of these, it will be very fruitful. So this is a little thing I'm sharing with you. It's kind of like a little bit of a secret, but it's sort of like a very nice way. And the 11th house is also the house of where you find the guru, where you will meet your guru and his advice. Okay. But the actual advice given by the guru, where it's the house of the ears, the house of listening, third and the 11th. So these two houses become very important when it comes to listening the guru and his teachings. Because in India, in any Vedic tradition, any Vedanta tradition, the listening of Guru Upadesha, or the advice or the sermons of the Guru, is utmost. Even if you're studying astrology, you have to listen to some of the discourses or lectures of even some of the teachers. That is nothing but what? It's Guru Upadesha, it's Guru advice, it's sermons of the Guru, right? So this house then comes into play. That is the beauty about this house. So this house is basically, as we go from the 7th house onwards, if you notice, this house is also to do with It's a trik bhava. That is trik meaning it is a malefic, but it's like a krura house, the lord of it is krura. It's a upachaya house. Upachaya means it's the house of regeneration, of growth. It's not a kendra, but it is a house of regeneration and growth. And because it is the fourth from the eighth house, so it has strong associations with the eighth house. And that is why astrology, occult sciences, everything falls in the eighth house. And any connection with the eighth and the 11th, you will be able to earn and have an income, through all these mystical, astrological, all kinds of teachings or learnings to do with that. Okay, so this is a very important one. And also because it is the house of Saturn and Rahu, which is to do with knowledge, the Aquarius, the pitcher comes into the pitcher, the water pitcher. Aquarius is depicted as a water pitcher, the water in the kumbh. When you talk of the sign Aquarius, it's called a kumbh. Kumbh is nothing but the water in a big pitcher, like a copper vessel, and which is nothing, signifies nothing but of to do with knowledge. Okay, so this becomes very important now. More associations of it is the Aya Bhava or the Hara Bhava. Now, when we talk of Hara means something that is lost, something where we are beaten. Okay, now that has also a very strong association with the 11th house. Planets here are going to, the fruits of the 10th house turns up in the 11th house. But it's like a salary, right? We all get salary end of the month for people who are working, but you're not going to get a salary at the beginning of the month, are you? Well, it's very unusual if you did, get salary at the beginning of the month. So you'll get it after. So that's exactly what the 11th house is. It's like depending on your karma, that is your 10th house, how you have performed, what you have performed, whether it's been a very malefic performance in terms of like, it has been dire, you've done really misdeeds, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, whatever. All of that will get accrued and you'll be rewarded as in the 11th house. And that's why it becomes a Hara Bhava, because most people misuse their time. We want action, we want to do this, we want to enroll in this, and we want more and more. We want action so that we get the desired fruits. But the whole of the teachings of the Vedic teachings and the Vedanta and the Bhagavad Gita is also about do not do. You're born to do the action, you're born to perform, you're born to gain knowledge, but you are not going to expect fruits of your actions. That is not what, if you are going to expect it, that is not what that is good for you. It's called the nishkarma. Nishkarma is there's no attachment to the fruits of your learning, or oh, I studied, I did a PhD. Wow, then my 10th house, I've got Jupiter in the 10th. Fantastic. I did a great PhD. Lovely. Now, can I get a great job? I'll be the head of the department. That's if you start to expect that, that's going to in a very negative spiral. And that's when you're going to get beaten up in the 11th house. And that is why it's the Hara Bhava. Okay. And it has associations with the Shatabhishak Nakshatra, the Kumbha, the pitcher, of knowledge, which is a pitcher, the Aquarius pitcher. And Sage Kashyap, who's associated with Surya, did tapasya, because tapasya is he did great penance to Lord Shiva, and he was rewarded by through the agency of Devi Surabhi, rewarded by the 11 Ekadashi. 11 is nothing but Ekadasha Rudras. And this has come to associate with the 11th house because it is 11th. Ekadashi in Sanskrit means 11, and Rudras are the most fierce form of Lord Shiva. Now you would say, why? He did the penance because they were being heckled by all the demons, okay? And so they needed somebody who could deal with the demons. And the Ekadashi Rudras is basically to wipe out the Daityas, that is the demons, engaged in torturing the Devas and other people. Now, this is a list of Niritti, Shambhu, Aparajita. These are the, they have definite, each of the Rudras have a definite function, okay? Your job, like for example, Hanuman, we all are familiar with Hanuman, right? In Ramayana, he was Lord Rama, wife Sita got hijacked by Ravan, kidnapped by Ravan. So it was only through Hanuman, who's a Rudra form, who is one of the Ekadashi Rudra, only he could rescue. So that is how the Rudras work. But Lord Rama was like the epitome of Satya, like he was like the ultimate truth. But we are not walking around being Lord Rama. We are not really the ultimate truth. So if we want not to have the negative effects of our desires for fruits and our desires for all the things that we work for, then we need to appease the one of the Ekadasha Rudras. And that is why these become very important. And they get associated with the Hara Bhava, which is nothing but the 11th house. And because the 11th house is the sixth from itself, from the sixth house, it's very, you're going to get beaten up. Because sixth house, remember we get truly beaten up. Yeah. Any questions so far?
Yes, so no. Is there a difference between? I was taught when I first studied Vedic astrology, like the ruler of the 11th house is malefic, but the 11th house is not so malefic. It improves over time. Is that a subtle difference, or that doesn't apply? You disagree with that?
No. It does. I mentioned it already. It is one of the Upachaya houses. Okay. So yes, it indeed improves over time. But depending on what planets you have there, if you have Moon or Venus there, it's not going to be easy, huh? You're going to get beaten up there, because remember the whole ethos of Moon and Venus. They are Jalatattva. They are covetous. They are lusty creatures. Moon is a lusty being. It wants more and more. It wants its desires to be met. If you come in the 11th house wanting, then you're going to be thrown out. If you want the gains, because remember what I said, the gains have to come without you asking for it. If they come, fine, great. It's the house of detachment. You're meant to detach, because remember, it is the last house before you enter the 12th house of ultimate moksha or dissolution. You cannot get moksha by getting yourself attached to all the gains and things like that. It's not going to happen like that. So if your Moon and Venus, they're going to work not very well there. That's when you're going to be like, invariably be like, oh my God, I'm going to get really beaten up. And that's why it's said that it is a Hara Bhava. Does that clarify what you're saying?
So basically, it's the 11th house gains, like it's different from earning and living, like the second house. Yeah, it's the second house is earning and living, but the 11th house has more gains that maybe are more fortuitous. You haven't earned them through a job or earning a living. Is that right?
Yes, and it's also to do with the income, coming in and things like that. Yes, while the second house is inherent, it's like the storage, right? How much do you store? Capitals and this and that kind of wealth as well. But that is predominantly the second house wealth. But this is different. This is like income coming in, gains coming in, and things like that. Okay. So there's a distinct difference between them.
Okay, so say you were doing a chart for someone about what work they would do. You look at both houses, yeah? You look at both the second and the 11th, yeah.
I would look at all the houses, James.
Yeah, okay, but I'm trying to pinpoint.
Yes,
So the
indeed.
second house.
Yes,
So
yes,
for
you're
earning
right.
from a job, Yeah, for earning from a job, is it second house and 11th or both or one or the other, you know?
I would look at both. There's no, yeah, I would look at both. But here you have to understand the signification of the 11th. The 11th house sometimes is not, people think like, wow, I can gain and all. Yes, gain is fine, but it's not, it's a Rudra Bhava. 11th house is, guys, it's not fun and games, it's serious business. That's why the association of Ekadasha Rudras. Rudra is like death. They have the power to overcome death. So that's why this house is a fierce house. It's not like a lovely walk in the park and let's make $1 million. It's not that kind of a thing. People have this very sort of elevated view of a very different rose tinted view of the 11th house. Aquarius, the sign of Aquarius, as I said last time, is one of the most difficult signs in the zodiac. Sun placement or moon placement in Aquarius, you will suffer. In the Navamsh chart, the D9 chart, the chart of destiny and relationship, if your planets in Aquarius, you have to give up, okay? You just have to give up. You have to just surrender and say, I give up, because you will suffer so much. Because the whole idea is you give up and you go to the 12th house of Pisces. I'm with Vishnu. That's it. I don't need anyone else or nothing else, anyone else. I don't need anything other than Vishnu. That is the ethos you come by the time you reach the 11th house, right? But if you start getting attached, if you have a moon there or a Venus there, you tend to get attached. There's no doubt about that. That's when the trouble will ensue. Yeah? Okay, so we may be up for time, maybe another 5 minutes. 7th from 5th, which that is the seat of all desires, what we want. And of course, I covered this, that children is what we live and fulfill our hopes and dreams. And also I said about the astrologer and astrology, income earned. Okay, if you want to earn from astrology and but this is like a little bit advanced, but I'm anyway saying you need a connection with the 11th house and Atmakaraka. Okay, that's a very important one. So anyway, there's something flashing. I can't read chat boxes, guys. So somebody has to tell me what the any questions are there. Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes, I can't read the chat.
All right, then. No, I confess. I just joking about oh dear.
Oh dear. Sorry, oh dear. What about
No,
oh
oh dear. That because I have sun in Aquarius. No, in the chat box, nothing really.
No. Go on. Did you say you have sun in the 11th house?
No. In Aquarius. In Aquarius.
Oh, okay.
You say about sun in Aquarius, and I was like, oh dear. And someone say have a remedy there. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And also, Rod, remember one thing, that remember Abraham Lincoln? He also had Sun and Mercury in Aquarius.
Yeah.
So, but of course, his karmic remit was to suffer. I mean, but that was for the good of humanity. Yeah. So
Don't worry. I will remember to give it to Vishnu. With Vishnu, that's a very beautiful sentence.
Yes, I know. We may not have time for the
Don't worry.
The 3 steps of Vishnu, which is the 12th house, which is one of the most beautiful houses, the 12th house.
Thank you.
Ultimate house. The 12th house is one of the most powerful, most misunderstood house of the zodiac, and one of the most important in my view.
Yeah.
So anyway, coming back, let's have a look at the Sophia Loren. We know Sophia Loren, right? We love Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, guys, what's in her 10th house?
Mercury and Sun.
Yes. And tell me if she has the 9th house and the 10th house yoga.
Yes. The Lord of 9th house is Sun, placed in 10th house.
Excellent. What's your name?
Shweta.
Okay. Hi. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, that's very good to point out. Look, that's a beautiful Karma Dharma Dipadi Yoga. Look at that. How brilliant. And a benefic also in the the ninth house. That's absolutely fantastic. This is one of the beautiful yogas. And of course, now she's like some kind of a really she's taken a charity on some global scale. I forget what her thing is, but she is one of the most iconic actresses, you know. Absolutely no doubt about it. But of course, there are other problems. But interestingly, I wanted you guys to understand this difference, okay? She has the Lagna Lord in the 11th house, Jupiter as a Lagna Lord in the 11th house. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's a very strong Lagna Lord, okay? And an exalted Mercury as well. Now, let's go to the chart of my favorite, Swami Vivekananda. Can you see his Lagna? It's also in his Lagna is Sagittarius,
Yes.
and it's also in the 11th house. Same as Sophia Loren, okay?
Mhm.
Now, she's still living and breathing, I think, and he is not. But of course, he was much older. But the fact is that he died quite young. His entire mission was to establish what his Guru Upadesha. Remember what I said about the 11th house signification? 11th house is to do with the Guru and his Upadesh. That is his discourse, okay? The Guru's
Krishna.
word is ultimate. Yes. And he had a Guru, Ram Krishna, Paramahansa, and he just followed his Guru's words to establish the Ram Krishna mission mutts all over the India, all over the country, and consequently promote the knowledge of Vedanta. He was instrumental in that, and he wrote many books on Raj Yoga. And his whole thing was about, hey guys, you were talking about gains, 11th house Jupiter. Wow, look at that. Yes. And the
Uh-huh.
same as Sophia Loren. She made millions. Look at her gains. But he was on a mission. And his karma was to do with the 10th house, Saturn and Moon. And there is an exchange, if you notice, between Saturn and Mercury. Can you see this? Saturn is in Parivartana with Mercury, Mercury in Capricorn, and Saturn in Virgo. They are in a mutual inter-exchange. Yes. So there is an whole, so you see how brilliant that is. So invariably, if the inter-exchange happens, Mercury comes in the 10th house, just like Sophia Loren. But the trouble is that he had a mission in his 10th house. He wanted to establish the Ramakrishna Mutt, the entire structures on his advice or upadesha of his guru. His mission finished. 6 years later, after the Ramakrishna Mutt was established, he passed away at a very young age. He was like barely 30, or I forget. I have to look at it. So you see, that is brilliant, isn't it? So that is what I'm saying, that this is why the 10th house is to do with the karma. That is why it's called the karma bhava. And the 11th house is very important. You know, he has Jupiter there. Fantastic. It was all about his guru. It was all about his establishment of a huge Vedantic institution. And that's what he did. He came here. And the beauty about his Ramakrishna Mutts are that at the time when he established it, you know, widowed women from like marginalized, unhappy, you know, where the husbands have left him, where the husbands have passed away, they were marginalized in the Indian society then. Absolutely, they were not even allowed to study Vedanta. and he brought them all under. He had a separate wing in all his ashrams. He had a separate wing where he would take all these women and then, kind of nurtured them and sort of taught them and things like that. So this is his contribution. So you see, that was a great mission that he did. And that's what I'm saying. So invariably, you have, when you reach the 11th house, and so what he did was he went abroad, he went to America, he went to Chicago, and he addressed the world religion conference, where he talked about Vedanta. That's all he knew, and that's all he talked about. And he got an entire, many Western world completely moved and influenced by his talk on Vedantic philosophy. So much so, Nikola Tesla and everybody sort of joined him and had discourses with him. And so he got a lot of funding from abroad. 11th house. And what was the funding about for him? Was it for his own corporation? Well, I wouldn't classify something like Ram Krishna ashrams as corporations per se. They were for the good of society. He established that, he made sure everything was functioning, and he exited. That's all. He was born to do this. That's a great karma yogi. And this is what happens in the 10th house. That's why the 10th house is karma bhava and karma yogi. And that's what they are called. Yeah.
Mm. Mhm.
Any questions?
Sonal, is there a difference between like the house itself and does the ruler of the house carry the same influence? Like with the 11th house, Camilla's would say the 11th house, planets in the 11th house are good, they get better as you get older, but the 11th house ruler is malefic. So for example, the 11th house ruler, has that got the same influence as the 11th house, or is it slightly different, depending on the chart,
We've come back to the same question. I told you that you're talking of the 11th Lord, right?
As an example, yeah. So the 11th is the 11th from the 12th, it's 6 from the 6th, and also it's to do with desires, a karma house, so that could cause problems.
Yeah.
But a planet in the 11th gets better as it gets older, you upachaya, but the 11th ruler, is that the same, or does it more malefic or less malefic? That's what the 11th house ruler, that's what I'm asking about. Is there different influence or similar? For example, I'm trying
No,
to.
it's always will give you problems, James.
The 11th house ruler is difficult. Period.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
It will behave as a Rudra because it's the natural house of Aquarius. It's not an easy house. Okay. So anyway, listen, guys, we need to end. Anyone has any questions? Remember, the sessions at the lodge now are going to be just for 5 minutes. Sorry, excuse